This video is sponsored by Waystar that you can go find on Kickstarter right now. Spelljamming is kind of different than it was in previous editions where you had the crystal spheres and all of that, where now it's like you have your planet, your prime material plane, and then, you know, as you get further and further away from that, that is wild space. So you go too far, and now you're in the Astral Sea. And then the Astral Sea can connect wild spaces from different cosmoses, basically different campaign settings.
Right. Yeah, and I haven't dived too deeply into this, so I don't know how it's going to affect those prime material planes that aren't supposed to be reachable. So things like Ravenloft, Dark Sun, and that kind of stuff. I don't know, whether it touches on any of that kind of stuff. Because I know we have Ravenloft, and I really doubt that we're going to see anything Dark Sun related for 5e. But, I keep dreaming, I keep hoping that there's mention somewhere. I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. All right, looks like a new book is coming out, came out, depending upon when you watch this video, so it's time to talk Spelljammer.
Yeah, we're going to be blasting off into wild space and sailing across the Ether Sea in this video. It is a slipcover case. I don't know if they're going to release the books individually or not. It doesn't appear so.
Yeah, right now it looks like, it's an individually wrapped, package. It's $69.99 MSRP. You get 3 different books, one of which has a fold-out map and a GM screen.
Yeah, double-sided fold-out map.
That's true. That's true.
And, all the books are 64 pages, so we're looking at, just over 190 pages, 192 maths. And you're getting the GM screen with it as well. So it's not too bad. I mean, you figure a normal book is roughly, 180 to 200 pages, $50. But we're
$15 to $20 for a GM screen kind of rounds it out. Plus you're getting the map and the slipcase to kind of conceal it all. I think it's about average.
It's about right, maybe slightly up. But that being said, as we looked at them so far, I will say like most of the art is really good. 95 to 98% of it, right?
I would agree.
There's only a couple pieces that were kind of meh for the most part, keeping with the tradition of 5e, putting at least 1 or 2 bad pieces of art in there. But the art that is good is really, really good.
I would have to completely concur. Now, this is just going to be an overview of the Spelljammer books. There's, way too much content for us to dive too deep on. So we're just going to get into, the overview of these 3 books for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Spelljammer.
Yeah, like you said, we're going to just do a first impression overview. We haven't had the books very long to sit with us. A couple things. We will put a link to the Kickstarter that we mentioned earlier in the description. We will put a link to the Amazon. It's an affiliate link if you want to pick up the copies for yourself, which they're going to actually be a little bit cheaper on Amazon if you don't have a local flags to go to. So you can check that out as well. Oh, and the other thing, as always, when we get a bunch of these books for free, we put them in our giveaway pile. We have 3 slip cases to give away, one of which is a special edition. And 2 of which are completely sealed, have never been opened.
So, Wizards of the Coast, thank you so much for sending those out, and that'll be, kind of sent out to you guys and gals at some point in time in the future.
Yep. Our giveaways, we randomly select a person from a combination of our newsletter and our Patreon, so join either of those or both of those, and you have a chance of winning free stuff every month from us.
All right, so let's dive in first. Let's look at the GM screen. It's a 4-panel GM screen, as they all are. It's one of the low ones, so it's wide rather than tall, as seems to be the current format for the Wizards of the Coast GM screens.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of works. I don't think they need to be particularly tall. I think I think as a GM personally, I think the wide works out better as far as if I'm trying to conceal things. Now, I'm not really that kind of GM. I roll in the open and all that, but it gives you a bunch of charts and tables to use that are super useful. It's 4 panels.
2 tables for DCs and skills for the associated stat.
Yeah, and they're kind of like the standard ones that are pretty much on all of the DM screens. And then after that, it gets very Spelljammer specific.
So you got a random encounter table set for the Astral Sea, Wild Space, and things on ships.
Then we get 7 more tables of ship rules, basically ship starting distances.
We have crashing and tasks.
We've got quirks and cargo.
So the cargo is broken down in between cheap cargo and expensive cargo. So there's plenty of things to kind of randomly roll on. Oh, you want to have a random encounter against another ship? Oh, here's this. And you could roll these different things and figure kind of stuff out. I think there's a lot of fun and ease of use with stuff like that.
Yeah, super useful. And also it's a way for them to differentiate between this GM screen and one of the other GM screens. And heck, you could even double GM screen if you need to do a standard regular one that has all the information about just the general game. And then, I'm running Spelljammer, so I have this up in front as well to reference specific Spelljammer information. I think it's super useful.
Yeah, if you wanted to go really crazy, just tape them together one one top of the other. Now you got it all, and you've got the taller barrier.
You go from GM screen to GM fortress.
All right, so as we mentioned, there are 3 books, so we're going to get into this, one at a time. So first up is going to be the Astral Adventurers Guide, and there's a lot to unpack with this one because it's the more player-centric book.
Yeah, and in there, we're going to get a bunch of player options, obviously. 2 backgrounds, the Astral Drifter and the Wild Spacer. Both are pretty cool, and I enjoy them both. I have a little bit of misgivings about the Astral Drifter. It starts out really cool and then it gets kind of weird. And it's the idea is you've kind of lived a bunch of your life in the Astral Sea where you don't age, so you're a lot older than you normally would be. I thought that was super cool. But then they throw this twist in there where it's and you met a god at some point. So now you have a divine access to magic initiate, which I'm you could have just totally chucked the whole god aspect and been you've been in Wild Space a long time, you picked up a little magic, magic initiate, you decide how it happened, and also you're 20-6 years older than you actually appear to be, which is super cool. We're talking about those super short-lived races where you can be the oldest living Aarakocra or goblin ever.
I think that part is absolutely hilarious. And it's a random roll. So I would love to be hey, look, could I just be, 120 years older than, what my starting race would normally be? And just be yep, I was drifting out there having a grand old time, not aging. This is absolutely fabulous. But I agree with Dave that I feel if you're going to give access to the Magic Initiate feat, unless you've got some kind of reason as to why you only want it to be a cleric or druid divinely gifted thing, what's wrong with wizard, sorcerer, or warlock in that particular choice? And why limit it to you met a god? There's so many things out there in the Astral Sea or Ethereal Sea that you could make contact with to get access to magic. Come on, just let it be as role play as much as you want and agency as much as you want.
Wild Spacer, you get tough. So yeah, if you're using the optional rules in your games where feats are optional, it's no longer optional. It's part of the core game, and that seems to be the direction we're moving in.
Yeah, I would agree. So we get 6 new races within this. We get the Autognome, we get the Astral Elf, we get the Gith, we get the Hadozi, the Plasmoid, and the Thrycreen.
Yeah, so I don't know how different these are from the Unearthed Arcana versions. I was kind of happy to see that the Astral Elves have keen senses, so it's a biological feature that makes them very perceptive. But then we get to the GIF where it's they magically know how to use guns really good, and I was kind of disappointed in that. It's super bizarre to me. Obviously, Wizards of the Coast, they're just removing anything cultural from the game now, and that's why GIF no longer are good with guns because they've practiced. Now they're magically good with guns, and it's a strong ability. Proficiency, remove the load property, and you don't get disadvantage at long range. So they're all expert marksmen.
All right, so let us know if you want us to do a deep dive video where Dave rants on the GIF down in the comments below. He's definitely passionate about, reading through that race. So let us know. I went through and I read the races that jumped out the most to me. As much as I like the Hadozi, I really dig the Plasmoid and the Thrycreen, who I've always been a fan of Dark Sun, so they speak to me on that kind of level. But now they have this like chameleonic skin, which I remember them having before, but the artwork shows them like in a hue of colors, one of which was purple, because they can blend into their surroundings, whatever it is. So I'm like, all right, if
That's
you're
the cosmic camouflage.
that's the cosmic camouflage, sure. But you absolutely, I feel like if you're gonna go to that kind of extreme, like, all right, there's blue fabric over there. I want to be blue. Bloop, I'm blue now. And just stay that way.
Yeah, then the next Larkin is like blue. Goes and stands in front of a plaid curtain. He can now blend in with kilts.
Oh no, he went to Scotland.
Yeah, so you got those 6 options. Very cool. I guess the most important thing to me to point out is now we can play an ooze, a monstrosity, or a construct.
Yeah, so lot of fun, things coming out of it, and it makes a lot of sense, to see the game kind of opening up in this direction for something as crazy as Spelljammer.
Yeah, we're gonna get information about how to spell jam, basically how Wild Space works, how the Astral Sea works. We're gonna get information on using Spelljammers, the ships. We get a couple spells, a couple magic items. And then we get a huge section full of ships.
So there's 16 different types of ships, and one of them is just going to be your standard galleon, the standard sailing vessel that has got a Spelljammer helm. But you've got squid ships and turtle ships that looks like it can be a submarine. You've got ones that look like dragonflies. There's so many cool things that are out there, and I was just looking through the art, and I'm just like, this is so impressive. I love it.
The Nautiloid, the Bombardo, which is the gift ship that kind of reminds me of the our Star Blazers. And I think it was the Amato. I think that was the name of the ship, or Yamamoto. So. It was a long time ago since I watched.
If you remember, let us know.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments down below. But most important thing is, what I see when you have 16 entries for the ships, because they also have the full maps of them. I'm seeing 16 dungeons, right? If you're a GM and you want an encounter location, you've got 16 ships to choose from at various sizes, and it could be, a single encounter or one or more sessions of gameplay where you've already got the map for a ship, whether it's abandoned, whether it's crashed. Some of them can't land on land. Others can. Some can land in water, some can't. So there's different places you can find them. Like Ted said, the turtle one is actually a submarine. They have a scorpion one that actually has a land speed that can move across the land. So a lot of them can be sailed across water as well. Some of which can only be landed in water. And then there's just a couple that can only be landed or can't be landed at all. They can only operate in space.
So one of the things that, as Dave says, you could have this as a crash. That was immediately where my brain went. If you wanted to have a cool adventure, where we'll get into it, but there is the adventure aspect of this as well. An introduction you could have would be the ship crashes, and you start off as a low-level character. You go investigate this ship, and that's when you make the decision of, I'm going to go off and do this thing. So, that could be your ship once you figure out how to make it work. So, if you didn't want to go in that direction and use their pre-planned adventure, that's a way to introduce spelljamming into your world, is a ship crashes. I think that's just amazing. That's a fantastic concept to just be like, all right, I'm going to go off to new places, and explore, because this random happenstance happened and nobody knows what spelljamming is, and you have to, that character gets to figure out all of this stuff on the fly.
Yeah, there's in the beginning of the book there are 10 hooks essentially that if you didn't want to use the adventure, you could use one of those hooks, and that's how you would get into your spelljamming. And so finally at the end of the book there is the City of Brawl, which is, a city on an asteroid, which is kind of cool.
The next book is essentially just a monster manual. It's Boo's Astral Menagerie, and it comes with 72, if I counted correctly, new stat blocks or adjusted stat blocks to add into your, D&D game or your Spelljammer game.
So I would say we get 6 new races. So I believe we get 3 to 4 NPCs for each one. And I remember from off the top of my head. So I think 18 of those are just going to be NPCs based off of the new races. Like I know there's a plasmoid boss, which kind of sounds like a crime thing to me.
But we get things like vampirates and space clowns. We get a couple new dragon types to be able to play around with as well.
Yeah, a lunar dragon, a solar dragon. Because of course, if you have one, you gotta have the other.
Yeah, and the dragons are of course going to come with their multitude of stat blocks. Little sad in that I didn't see like the upper evolution that came in Fizzbands there. So little sad about that.
Yeah, you have to figure that out on your own. And then, they bring back a bunch of monsters from previous editions as well. Of course, we have giant space hamsters, and then we also have space hamsters as well. Of course.
It's got the whole cool lore as to how you get a space hamster. And, now if you want that space hamster as a familiar and you can convince your DM to let you have it, boom, done.
Yeah, I think he definitely would fall in the realm of animal companion, though.
Yes.
If you're using, the old beast companion rules.
Very, very much, could go in that direction. So you could play Minsk and have your bow.
So I guess the other thing is the challenge rating is 0 to 20. So you get a pretty good range. I'm a little surprised there isn't like higher than 20 because the Astral Sea can be a very dangerous place.
The Astral Sea can be a very dangerous place. I will say it's got every challenge rating except 17. So it definitely adds a whole new range of options across all tiers of play. So I definitely like seeing that.
So next up, we have the last book, which is The Adventure.
All right, so the book is called The Light of Xaryxis, or Xaryxis, however you want to pronounce it. To me, my brain looks at that, and I immediately went to the Men in Black, The Light of Zarthus, which was the big plot point for the second movie. Yeah. So that's the only thing I can see when I see that.
Too many X's and Y's in there for me.
So the adventure is designed to start with 5th level characters, and they're expected to not have strong ties to whatever world they came from because they're expected to kind of go out into space and do their thing. It's broken up into 4 sections, with each section supposed to be taking 3 sessions for a total of 12 sessions of play, each about 2 to 3 hours apiece.
Yeah, and so I guess the only other thing I would point out is spelljamming is kind of different than it was in previous editions, where you had the crystal spheres and all of that, where now it's like you have your planet, your prime material plane, and then, as you get further and further away from that is wild space. So you go too far, and now you're in the Astral Sea. And then the Astral Sea can connect wild spaces from different cosmoses, basically different campaign settings.
Right. And I haven't dived too deeply into this, so I don't know how it's going to affect those prime material planes that aren't supposed to be reachable. So things like Ravenloft, Dark Sun, and that kind of stuff. I don't know, whether it touches on any of that kind of stuff. Because I know we have Ravenloft, and I really doubt that we're going to see anything Dark Sun related for 5e. But, I keep dreaming, I keep hoping that there's mention somewhere.
But if you want another way to play 5e D&D in space, or a game derived from 5e in space,
why not check out Waystar? Charge your particle cannons, prime your plasma engines, and prepare your synaptic relays for the D&D 5e science fiction conversion you've been waiting for. Because Penny Dragon Games have just launched Waystar. You can get the print copy of the adventure book for free if you back now. Waystar is a new TTRPG based on familiar 5e rules, so you can hit the upper decks running. The Kickstarter includes a core rulebook for players and GMs, a creature codex with 100 plus monsters, and many more planned, and a galactic setting with everything you need to get your game off the planet. The best part, if you back a physical tier in the first 72 hours, you will receive a free PDF and print copy of Steal the Stars.
Let us know what you think of Spelljammer for 5e D&D in the comments below. What you love, what you hate. If you want us to go in more depth, when you go down on your way down to the comments, stop by the descriptions. We have the links to that Kickstarter, as well as to Amazon, and you can also find links to join our newsletter and our Patreon in order to be eligible to win a free copy of your own.
And if you want to help Nerdarchy appease that YouTube algorithm, go ahead and make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe. You know the drill.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we drop new videos here on the channel, so come on back. But you can't wait till then? No worries, we got you covered up here. How to convert Spelljammer to 5e D&D. Yeah, we took a crack at it many years ago. See how close we got to what Wizards of the Coast did.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.